Welcome to Faith Refined. This is a place where weary hearts find rest, where broken spirits discover healing, and where every soul can draw closer to God through the gentle leading of the Holy Spirit. Here, you will hear words that refresh your faith, prayers that lift your spirit, and reflections that remind you are never alone, for God is with you. Let this channel be your quiet space to meet Him, to listen, and to walk daily in His grace. Let the Holy Spirit heal your deepest pain that you never talk about. There are parts of your story that no one knows, places you don't bring up in conversation, wounds you've stopped trying to explain because even the words fall short. You learned how to smile through it, you kept showing up, you convinced yourself it didn't matter anymore. But late at night, or in the stillness between moments, you feel it, the weight of something unfinished. Not just pain from your past, but pain that's shaping how you live right now. It's affecting how you love, how you trust, how you breathe, and maybe you've never told a soul, but the Holy Spirit knows. There is a kind of pain that's too deep for language. It settles beneath your performance, beneath your strength. It doesn't scream, it stays silent. But silence doesn't mean healing. Silence just means hiding. And what's hidden rarely gets healed. You don't need to bleed publicly to be seen. You don't have to tell your story out loud for it to matter. The Holy Spirit saw the moment it happened, and He hasn't stopped reaching for you since. What if the ache you've buried was actually the place He most wants to touch? What if your hidden pain isn't something you have to fix before you get close to God, but the very place He wants to begin? The healing you're craving doesn't start when you finally say all the right things. It starts when you let Him in. You don't have to explain yourself perfectly. You don't even have to be ready to talk about it. You just have to stop hiding from Him, because He's not waiting for your eloquence. He's waiting for your surrender. You may have learned to live around the pain, built routines over it, piled spiritual language on top of it, but He's not intimidated by your layers. The Holy Spirit doesn't shame what's broken. He enters it, not with demands, not with pressure, but with the most tender presence you've ever known. The kind of presence that doesn't need to ask what's wrong, because He already knows, and He came to heal it. So if you've ever wondered why you still feel stuck, even when everything looks fine, if you've ever asked why your soul still flinches in places no one else sees, this is where we begin. Not by running from the pain, not by pretending it doesn't affect you, but by inviting the only one who can truly touch it. He's not asking you to open every door today, but He is asking for one. The one you locked the tightest, the one you've avoided the longest, because that's where healing starts. Not with the pain you can name, but with the pain you never talk about. The pain you've buried but still feel every day. You've convinced yourself that time has covered it, that moving on, keeping busy, or staying strong somehow erased the sting. But there's a reason it still flares up unexpectedly. Why a comment, a song, a place, or a moment can suddenly awaken something in you that you thought you buried long ago. That pain didn't die, it just went underground. And buried pain doesn't disappear. It embeds itself in how you relate, how you trust, how you react, and how you see yourself. You can be surrounded by people who love you and still feel the ache of something unresolved. You can succeed, lead, preach, parent, and serve, all while silently battling a wound that you've never felt safe enough to expose. And this is where the Holy Spirit comes in. Not to make you relive what happened, but to reveal how what you've buried is still shaping the life you're trying to build. Buried pain is deceptive. It hides behind perfectionism. It masks itself as independence. It dresses up as strength, but inside, you're carrying a weight that was never meant to be yours. And when you try to carry it long enough, it starts to harden parts of you that were made to feel. You become numb to joy, suspicious of love, distant from God, not because he left, but because you started believing that he didn't show up when you needed him most. But the Holy Spirit hasn't forgotten what you've tried to forget. He doesn't ignore the places you don't talk about. He lives in them. He stands at the edge of your buried pain, not with condemnation, but with compassion. Not rushing you, but waiting for the moment you stop performing healing and start receiving it. He doesn't need you to unearth everything at once, but he will gently guide you to the places that need light again. And when he does, the ache you thought would never leave begins to loosen. Not because time worked, but because presence did. His presence. Constant, steady, gentle. Healing not just what was done to you, but what that pain convinced you to believe about yourself. So let him in, into the place you keep functioning around, into the place you thought was too small to matter or too deep to be reached. You don't have to understand it all. You just have to admit that it's still there. And when you do, healing can begin. The kind of healing that doesn't just numb the pain, but removes its power. Why some wounds can't be healed by time, only by the Spirit. You've heard it before. Just give it time. But what if time alone isn't enough? What if the wound is spiritual, not just emotional, and no amount of distraction, years passing, or pretending can truly close it? Some pain doesn't fade with distance. It gets quieter, but deeper. It stops screaming, but it starts shaping everything in silence. You think it's gone, but then it shows up in the way you guard yourself, the way you avoid connection, the way you expect disappointment. That's not healing. That's survival. And the Holy Spirit didn't come to help you survive. He came to make you whole. Time helps the body heal, but the soul needs presence. It needs truth. It needs divine intervention. And that's why the Holy Spirit is not a counselor who checks in every now and then. He's a comforter who never leaves, because he knows there are places in you that can't be touched by logic, by reason, or even by words. There are things in you that only he can reach. Wounds that only he can rewrite. And he's not intimidated by how long you've been carrying it. Whether it happened 5 weeks ago or 20 years ago, he doesn't say, "You should be over this by now." He says, "I've been waiting for this moment to finally begin." Because while time may have covered the surface, he sees what still bleeds underneath, and his healing doesn't settle for surface level. He goes to the root, the memory, the lie you believed when the pain happened, the vow you made to never feel that way again, the walls you built to keep yourself safe that are now keeping you isolated. That's what he's after. Not to expose you, but to free you. This is why healing in the Spirit doesn't always make sense to people around you. They might say, "But everything's fine now." They might not understand why you're still tender, but the Spirit sees beyond the circumstances. He sees the crack in your identity, the shift in your voice, the small ways your pain has shaped your prayers. And he says, "Let me heal what no one else even knows needs healing." There's no shame in still hurting. There's only danger in pretending you don't, because when you pretend, you close the door on the only one who's powerful enough to heal the part of you that no one else can reach. So stop waiting on time to do what it was never meant to do. Invite the Holy Spirit to do what only he can. Let him walk you back to the place where the wound began, not to relive it, but to rewrite it. To show you where he was, what he's doing now, and what he still wants to restore. Because this isn't about the years you've lost, it's about the wholeness he's still offering. And the truth is, you're not too late. You're right on time for healing that only the Spirit can bring. The Spirit doesn't need you to explain. He already knows. There's a certain kind of pain that leaves you speechless, not because you don't want to talk, but because you don't know how. You've sat in silence, trying to put words to it, trying to pray your way through it, but every time you try to speak, the emotions get stuck in your throat. And so you stop. You shut it down. You bury it deeper. Not because you don't want healing, but because you don't know how to ask for it. But the Holy Spirit isn't waiting for the right words. He doesn't need the perfect explanation, the polished prayer, the well-articulated confession. He already knows. He knows what happened. He knows what it did to you. He knows what you lost in that moment and what you stopped believing because of it. He doesn't just know the details you lived through. He knows the layers that moment created. And even in that silence, he has been speaking. Not loudly, not to overwhelm you, but gently, in moments of stillness, in that wave of emotion that catches you off guard, in the tears that come for no reason, in the ache that rises when the room goes quiet. That's him. That's not emotional weakness. That's divine invitation. You've been trying to process your pain logically, trying to give it categories, explanations, timelines. But the wound isn't in your mind, it's in your soul. And that's why the Spirit doesn't wait for your intellect. He waits for your surrender, for you to drop the pressure of saying it right and simply sit with him in the rawness of what you're feeling. Because when you let go of the need to explain, you finally give him permission to move. Sometimes we've been in pain for so long, we forget what it's like to be seen without needing to speak. But that's what he offers. The Holy Spirit doesn't just hear your words, he hears your heart. He translates every broken sigh, every restless night, every silent question. Romans chapter 8 verse 26 tells us that the Spirit intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. That means even when you have no language left, he is praying through you, for you and with you. So stop trying to craft the perfect prayer. Let the tears speak. Let the silence become sacred. Let your weakness become the place where his strength rises. Because when you allow the Spirit to enter your unspoken grief, you discover a healing that doesn't wait for you to explain. It just begins. You've carried it alone for long enough. Now it's time to sit in the presence of the one who already understands, the one who never needed your words to feel your pain, the one who was already weeping with you when you thought no one knew. Shame keeps you silent, but the Spirit speaks in your silence. There's a reason you haven't talked about it, not just because it hurts, but because it carries shame. That subtle, suffocating whisper that says, you should be over this by now. Or worse, it's your fault this happened. Shame doesn't just isolate you from people, it tries to isolate you from God. It tells you that your pain makes you unworthy, that your story is too messy, that if anyone really knew what you carry, they would leave, that if God really knew, he would pull back. But shame is a liar, and the Holy Spirit came to silence it. The Spirit doesn't shrink away from what you're ashamed of. He doesn't flinch at the memories you avoid. He doesn't recoil at your mess. In fact, he moves toward it, toward you. Because shame is loud, but the Spirit's whisper is louder. It doesn't sound like accusation. It sounds like a soft, steady voice that says, I still want you. I've never stopped. While shame tries to shut you down, the Spirit comes to awaken what shame buried. Sometimes you don't even realize shame is speaking. You just find yourself avoiding intimacy, pulling away when things feel too vulnerable, numbing the ache with busyness, perfectionism, distractions. You may say, I'm fine, but deep down, you've believed that whatever broke you somehow defines you, and so you go silent. Not because you want to stay in pain, but because you don't believe healing is yours to have. But the Spirit speaks in that silence, not in condemnation, but in compassion. He says, you are not what happened to you. You are not your worst decision. You are not beyond redemption. You are my dwelling place. He doesn't shout over your silence. He fills it. He breathes into it. He turns it into a sacred space where healing begins, not with noise, but with presence. And here's the truth. What shame told you to hide is the very place the Spirit wants to heal. He's not waiting for you to clean it up. He's waiting for you to open up. Because the moment you bring him into that hidden place, the grip of shame begins to loosen. The light starts to break in, and the silence that once felt like prison starts to feel like peace. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to explain to be understood. And you don't have to be perfect to be healed. You just have to be willing to let the Spirit into the space shame told you to seal shut. Because where shame says hide, the Spirit says heal. And where you thought your silence was proof of your disqualification, He's showing you it's actually the doorway to freedom. The deepest healing doesn't start with talking. It starts with letting Him in. You may think healing begins the moment you're finally able to speak about it, that if you could just say it out loud, admit it to someone, explain it clearly, then you'd feel whole again. But the deepest healing doesn't begin with words. It begins with access, with opening a door you've kept locked, not just from others, but even from yourself. You don't need to process it perfectly. You just need to invite the Holy Spirit into the place you've kept Him out of the longest. And pain has a way of creating protective barriers, emotional alarms that go off the moment anything gets too close. You learn to keep it sealed, because facing it feels like drowning, because naming it feels like reliving it. And you assume God will approach it the way others have, either ignoring it or rushing to fix it. But the Holy Spirit doesn't come to fix you. He comes to dwell, to sit in the mess with you, to wait with love until you're ready to move, and even if you're not. Healing doesn't begin with a confession. It begins with surrender. Not dramatic, not loud, just that simple moment when you stop holding your breath. When you say, I don't know what to do with this anymore. I can't carry it like this anymore. That's when He comes in. Not with a flood of expectations, but with a peace that wraps around your soul and says, you don't have to hide this from me. I'm not here to judge it. I'm here to carry it. There's a quiet kind of courage in letting God into a place that hasn't seen light in years, a holy kind of bravery in choosing presence over performance, and the Spirit honors that bravery. He doesn't barge in, He waits for permission. But once you give it, once you whisper, come in, He begins to move in ways you didn't even know were possible. He starts lifting things you thought you'd always carry. He starts healing what you couldn't even name. This is the moment where you stop trying to be your own rescuer, where you stop managing your pain and finally allow it to be met. Met by a Spirit who already knows the root, who already sees the ripple effect, and who still chooses to love you fully, without hesitation. You don't need to map out your healing. You don't need to predict how it will look or how long it will take. You just need to let Him in. Into the hidden places, into the memories that still sting, into the fears that still whisper, into the version of you that's still bleeding beneath the surface. Because that's where the deepest healing happens, not in your control, but in your surrender, not in your strength, but in His nearness. And all it takes to begin is one honest moment of access. How the Holy Spirit heals through tears you didn't expect. There are moments when the tears come without warning. You're folding laundry, driving to work, brushing your teeth, and suddenly your chest tightens, your eyes burn, and you feel that old ache rising. You weren't thinking about it. You didn't ask for it, but it surfaces. And maybe your first instinct is to shut it down, to wipe your face, take a deep breath, and tell yourself to pull it together. But what if that moment wasn't weakness? What if that was the Holy Spirit knocking gently on a door you forgot was even there? Tears have a language of their own. They are the soul's way of releasing what words can't hold. They don't always mean you're broken. Sometimes they mean something sacred is stirring. The Holy Spirit often moves in quiet, unguarded moments to let you feel what you've worked so hard to numb, not to overwhelm you, but to release you. Because tears don't just fall from pain. They fall from healing too. Maybe you've gone years without crying, or maybe you cry more than you admit, but never let anyone see. Either way, those tears are not wasted. They're not emotional leftovers. They're evidence that something deeper is happening inside of you. When the Spirit brings them, He's not trying to make you relive the trauma. He's trying to touch the place where the trauma still echoes. This is where healing becomes holy. Not in front of an audience, not on a stage, not even in a structured moment of ministry, but in the raw, unplanned, completely human moment when your soul says, "This still hurts." And the Holy Spirit says, "I know, and I'm here." Healing often begins with the tears you resist, because the tears aren't the problem, they're the signal. The soul is moving, the walls are loosening, and the Spirit is making room in you again. Room for comfort, room for hope, room for joy you stopped believing in. You might not understand why you're crying, you might not even remember what triggered it, but He knows, and He's not rushing you. He's meeting you. So let the tears come. Let them fall. Don't judge them. Don't explain them. Don't apologize for them. Let them do their work. Let the Spirit do His. Because in that release, there is a repair. In that softness, there is strength being restored. You don't need to control the moment. You just need to be in it, fully, honestly, tenderly. Because when the Holy Spirit heals through tears, He's not just drying your eyes, He's restoring your soul. What you've been hiding is exactly where He wants to dwell. You've built walls around certain parts of yourself, not out of rebellion, but out of survival. You didn't mean to shut God out, you just needed somewhere to hide from what hurt. So you sectioned off pieces of your heart. You told yourself, "I'll give God the good parts, the surrendered parts, the healed parts." But that one area, the memory, the failure, the secret, you buried it. Not because you wanted to deceive Him, but because you thought it disqualified you. You thought it was too dark, too shameful, too messy. But that's the part He wants. The Holy Spirit doesn't need your perfection. He wants your permission. And He's not looking for the neat version of your story. He's looking for the real one, the raw one, the one you buried so deep even you don't visit it anymore. Because He knows the truth. The place you've been hiding is the very place where intimacy begins. Not where you act strong, but where you let yourself be seen, fully, completely, and still loved. You don't scare Him. That memory doesn't scare Him. That secret doesn't intimidate Him. That trauma doesn't push Him away. He already knows. And still, He's choosing to dwell there, not to haunt you with it, but to heal you in it. He doesn't move away from your pain. He moves in. And when He moves in, everything changes. You've been taught to clean up before you let God in. But the Spirit is not looking for a staged version of your soul. He wants the hidden room, the locked closet, the place you've never let anyone into, because that's the place that holds your greatest wound, and it's also the place that's waiting to become your greatest healing. He's not afraid of the dirt. He's not disappointed by what He'll find. He already sees it. He already feels it. And still, He knocks. Still, He waits. Because His presence is not for performance, it's for transformation. And transformation only happens where truth is welcomed, where the wound is not hidden but exposed to love. You've hidden it long enough. You've lived around it, managed it, dressed it up with distraction and activity. But He's asking now, will you let me in? Not just into your prayers, your worship, your ministry, but into that place, the one that still aches, the one you still avoid. Because when you open that door, you won't find judgment. You'll find Jesus. You'll find a Spirit who wraps Himself around your weakness and says, "I still choose to live here." And the moment you let Him dwell where you thought no one ever could, that's the moment your healing truly begins. When you don't feel ready to heal, but He comes anyway. There are days when even the thought of healing feels too heavy. You're not resisting God. You're just exhausted. The pain has been there so long it's become a part of you. And maybe you've learned to cope, to function, to build a life around the brokenness. So when healing is mentioned, it feels distant, risky, overwhelming. You want it, but you don't feel ready. not emotionally, not spiritually, not even physically. And yet the Holy Spirit comes. He doesn't wait for you to be ready. He doesn't wait for you to feel brave enough or strong enough. He comes because he knows that healing doesn't start with your readiness. It starts with his love. It starts with his presence showing up when you least expect it, offering peace where there used to be pressure and presence where there used to be panic. You think, but I'm not ready to go back there. He whispers, I already went before you. And you say, it still hurts too much. He replies, then let me carry what you can't yet face. The Spirit doesn't force. He doesn't push. He comes gently, standing beside your pain, not demanding your strength, but offering his. You may think healing only happens when you take the first step, but sometimes the first step is just letting him take one toward you. Sometimes it's not about being willing to fix it. It's about being willing to not run anymore. This is the grace of God. He doesn't wait for your full surrender to begin. He meets you in your hesitation, in your reluctance, in your not yets and I'm not ready moments. And he brings healing even when all you offer is a whisper. I don't know how to do this. Because healing doesn't begin with a declaration. It begins with honesty. You don't have to wake up one day fully ready to be whole. You just have to wake up willing to stop pretending you're fine, willing to admit that it still lingers, willing to acknowledge that even if you don't know what healing looks like, you're tired of living with the wound. The Spirit knows how to move in the slowest places. He's patient with your fear, tender with your hesitation. He works in ways that feel more like breath than fire, more like rest than striving. He's not rushing your process. He's redeeming your timeline. So even if you don't feel ready, know this. He is. And he's not waiting for you to clean up or toughen up. He's waiting for your heart to unlock, just a crack, so he can come in and begin what you were never meant to finish on your own. Healing doesn't always start with readiness. Sometimes it starts with simply being held. The pain behind your patterns is what the Spirit wants to break. You've probably noticed it, those cycles you can't seem to escape. The way you pull away when someone gets too close, the sudden anger that feels out of proportion, the deep insecurity behind your overachievement. You've labeled it as personality, as habit, as just the way I am. But what if it's not just behavior? What if it's pain hiding underneath the patterns? What if those reactions are actually your soul's way of protecting itself from something it hasn't healed? The Holy Spirit sees beyond what you do. He sees why you do it. He sees the root behind the repetition, the memory behind the reaction, the belief behind the behavior. And he's not just here to comfort the pain. He's here to break the pattern. Because pain that's not healed becomes permission for cycles to continue. It makes you settle in dysfunction and call it normal. It convinces you to adapt to your wound instead of inviting God to heal it. You cope, you manage, you construct systems to survive, but deep down you know something's off. You know there's more. And that quiet longing, that's the Spirit, stirring you to see that healing isn't just about feeling better, it's about living free. The patterns may have started as protection, but now they're your prison. And the Holy Spirit didn't come to renovate your prison. He came to break you out. He comes gently, but he comes with power. He begins by showing you what you couldn't see before, how that unresolved pain from years ago is still writing the rules for your relationships, how the fear of being hurt again keeps you from being known, how the old vow you made in silence, I'll never trust anyone again, is still influencing your choices. He doesn't shame you for it. He reveals it with love, because what is revealed can finally be healed. The Spirit's healing always leads to freedom. Not just from the pain itself, but from the structures it built in your life. He doesn't just treat the surface. He touches the blueprint. He rewrites the parts of your heart that have been stuck in self-defense, and he teaches your soul what safety feels like again. This is how the cycle ends. Not through willpower, but through surrender. Not by pushing harder, but by yielding deeper. You don't need to fix yourself. You just need to follow his leading. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty from the patterns you never wanted, but didn't know how to escape. Let him take you back, not to torment you with your past, but to uproot what's been keeping you bound. Because when the Spirit breaks a pattern, he doesn't leave a void. He replaces it with peace, with clarity, with healing so deep, the cycle no longer fits who you've become. The Spirit heals without hurting, but not without revealing. You may have avoided healing because you thought it would be too painful. You've already walked through enough. The idea of opening those wounds again feels unbearable. Maybe you've seen people push themselves into emotional chaos, calling it healing, and you said to yourself, "I'm not strong enough for that." But here's what the Holy Spirit wants you to know. He doesn't heal by hurting you more. He heals by revealing what's still hurting you, so he can release it, not re-traumatize you. He is not a surgeon who cuts without compassion. He is a comforter who reveals so gently you sometimes don't realize you're healing until you look back and realize the pain isn't leading your life anymore. But that doesn't mean he avoids truth. He is the Spirit of truth. And truth always brings light, not to expose you to shame, but to expose the lie, to uncover the belief you made in pain that's still shaping how you pray, how you trust, how you relate. Because the wound itself is only part of the damage. The deeper harm is what it taught you to believe, that you're unworthy, that you're alone, that you'll always be broken, that you have to protect yourself because no one else will. And the Spirit comes to confront every one of those lies, not with pressure, but with love. He puts his hand on the exact spot you've tried to cover, and instead of judging it, he whispers, "This is where I want to heal you." Revelation is not exposure, it's invitation. Invitation to freedom, invitation to clarity, invitation to breathe again. He will show you what you've been carrying, not to make you feel weak, but to finally take it off your shoulders. Because healing isn't about holding the pain longer. It's about letting it go, one layer at a time, as he shows you what you no longer need to carry. You've spent so long avoiding what you're afraid to feel, but the Holy Spirit doesn't meet you with force. He meets you with timing, with patience, with the kind of kindness that says, we don't have to do this all at once. But we do need to do this together. And when you let him reveal what's underneath the survival mode, the bitterness, the silence, or the striving, you'll begin to realize that healing was never about being strong. It was about being willing to be seen. The Spirit's healing is honest, but it's holy. It's real, but it's restorative. And if you'll let him reveal, he will never leave you exposed. He will cover you in grace as he frees you from the wounds you thought were permanent. You're not too broken to be whole again. There's a whisper that echoes in the back of your mind when you're alone. You don't say it out loud, but it lingers. Maybe I'm too far gone. Maybe what happened damaged something too deep. Maybe this part of you, this shattered, shut down, silent part, just isn't meant to heal. You function, you smile, you move forward. But underneath it all, there's this ache, not just from the pain itself, but from the quiet belief that you might be the exception to restoration. But the Holy Spirit says otherwise. Wholeness isn't for the ones who got everything right. It's not reserved for those who avoided the fall. Wholeness is for the broken. That's why he came. Not to applaud your strength, but to meet you in your ruin. Not to reward your success, but to resurrect what died in you when you were at your lowest. You are not too broken to be whole again. You are the very reason heaven sent the Spirit to dwell within us, not beside us, not above us, but within us. Because God knew we wouldn't just need comfort, we'd need reconstruction, the kind that goes beyond behavior and down into the soul. The world may have labeled you fragile. People may have dismissed your wounds. You may have labeled yourself disqualified. But the Spirit doesn't ask the world who you are. He already knows. He sees what you would be if that pain never entered your life. And then he begins healing not just the damage, but the distortion, restoring not only what you lost, but who you were before you lost it. You don't have to fix yourself to earn wholeness. That's not how grace works. You just have to come empty, honest, open enough to say, I don't know how to be whole anymore, but I want to try. And the moment you say that, the Spirit begins, because brokenness is not your identity. It's the place where healing begins, the place where the Spirit starts weaving together the pieces the world told you were useless. The cracks don't disqualify you, they make space for glory. Because when the Spirit heals you, He doesn't erase your story. He redeems it. He takes what was shattered and turns it into sacred testimony. He transforms wounds into wisdom, pain into purpose, and scars into signs of where His power stepped in. You may feel like healing is for others, those who haven't done what you've done, who haven't gone through what you've gone through. But the Spirit didn't come for the polished. He came for the ones who don't believe they belong. And He's saying to you now, you are not too broken to be whole. You are the reason I came. Letting go of what you thought you had to carry alone. Some burdens feel so personal, so tied to your identity, that you've carried them for years without even realizing they've become part of you. You learned early on not to show weakness, to hold it together, to be the strong one. Maybe no one was there to help you when the pain first came. Maybe you tried asking for support and were met with silence, or worse, rejection. So you made a silent decision. I'll handle it myself. And you did. You kept going. You survived. But what got you through then is now holding you back. The Holy Spirit is not asking you to relive your pain. He's asking you to release it, to let go of the responsibility you took on that was never yours. You were never meant to carry this alone. But healing can't reach what you're still holding in secret. You have to release it, not because you're weak, but because He's willing. Carrying it alone might have felt noble. It might have even looked spiritual. But isolation is not God's design. The Holy Spirit was sent to be your helper, your comforter, your advocate, not your silent bystander. He doesn't just observe your burden. He's asking you to place it in His hands. The hardest part is that you've carried it so long it feels like something essential. But what if it's not? What if that weight isn't your identity, but a wound? What if the strength you thought you had to fake is actually the wall that's kept you from real healing? You don't have to be the one who always manages, who always keeps smiling, who always says, I'm good when you're unraveling on the inside. You can let down the act, because God doesn't heal who you pretend to be. He heals you, the one behind the defenses, the one beneath the duties, the one who's been quietly screaming for help without knowing how to say it out loud. And here's the miracle. The moment you let go of the burden, even just a little, the Spirit rushes in. Not to scold you for holding it so long, but to hold you, to take what you've been gripping tightly in fear and exchange it for peace, for rest, for wholeness. This isn't about weakness. This is about trust. Trusting that the one who carried the weight of the world can also carry you. That you don't have to be your own protector, provider, or healer. That your story doesn't fall apart the moment you stop managing it. In fact, that's when healing begins. So loosen your grip, take one deep breath, and say, Holy Spirit, I don't want to carry this by myself anymore. That's where it begins, with surrender, with letting go, with letting Him be what He's always wanted to be. Your strength when you're out of strength, your refuge when you're tired of pretending. Your healing in the place you thought was yours to hold alone, when healing happens in stillness, not striving. You've been trying so hard, trying to pray more, believe more, serve more, fix more. Maybe you thought if you just did enough, said the right words, or showed God how serious you are, healing would finally come. But the more you strive, the more exhausted you feel. The more pressure you apply, the more distant healing seems. Because real healing doesn't happen when you push harder. It happens when you pause, when you stop performing, and finally allow yourself to be. The Holy Spirit doesn't move in chaos. He moves in stillness, in the kind of quiet you usually avoid, in the moments where nothing dramatic happens on the outside, but everything begins to shift on the inside. Because stillness is where striving dies, where control loosens, where your soul finally catches up with what God has been whispering all along. The world tells you to hustle your way to wholeness, to climb your way out of pain, but heaven tells you to rest, not because the pain is small, but because the Spirit is big enough to carry it while you breathe. Stillness is not passivity, it's trust. It's the decision to stop fixing and start receiving, to let your guard down and let grace do what effort never could. This is why some of the deepest healing moments don't feel like breakthroughs. They feel like stillness, like peace you can't explain, like sitting in the quiet and realizing the ache has softened, even though you didn't force it to, like finally exhaling after years of holding your breath. That's the Holy Spirit, moving where words have failed and strength has run dry. You don't have to strive to be loved. You don't have to earn peace. You don't have to fight your way into the Father's arms. The Spirit leads you there, not through pressure, but through presence. He draws near when you let go. And the moment you stop trying to prove you're okay is the moment He begins to show you that you're already loved as you are. Stillness creates space, and in that space, the Spirit begins to speak. Not in shouts, but in whispers that heal, in reminders that you're not forgotten, that you don't have to carry the pace of the world while trying to recover from the wounds of your past, that healing is not a test, it's a gift. So rest, let go of the pressure to perform, stop rehearsing what you need to do better, and instead sit, breathe, be still, and know, not with your mind, but with your spirit, that He is God. And He is good, and He is healing you right now, even if nothing looks different yet. Because the greatest miracles don't always start with movement. Sometimes they start with stillness. The wound was not the end. It was the beginning of your restoration. You thought the wound marked your ending. That moment, the betrayal, the loss, the abandonment, the shame, it felt like something died inside you. And maybe something did. A sense of innocence, a part of your voice, a trust you didn't even realize you'd placed in someone. And in the silence that followed, you decided healing was too far away, too big, too impossible. You kept moving, but part of you froze in that place. But today, the Holy Spirit wants you to know that wound didn't end your story. It introduced the part of your story where He takes over. He's been pursuing that place all along, not to revisit your pain, but to redeem it. Not to make you relive what happened, but to rewrite the meaning of it. That pain you buried, the one you swore you'd never talk about, never feel again, is exactly where the Holy Spirit began crafting your restoration. The wound wasn't your disqualification. It was your invitation. It became the place where heaven touched earth in the most personal way possible. He hasn't been waiting for you to be stronger. He's been waiting for you to let Him in deeper, into the cracked, tired, hidden places, into the questions that still sting and the memories that still echo, into the parts of you that feel too fragile to open, too dark to explore. But now you know He's not afraid of your darkness. He's the one who speaks light into it. And when He heals, it's not partial. He doesn't patch you up and send you on your way. He restores the part of you that forgot how to breathe, how to dream, how to trust, how to feel again. He brings life to what felt beyond saving, wholeness to what you thought you had to hide forever. You're not walking away from this video with a list of things to fix. You're walking away with an invitation to trust that the place where you were hurt the most is now the place where the Spirit is building something new. That the tears you cried alone were seen. That the silence you sat in was sacred. That your brokenness was never a barrier. It was a bridge to Him. So let this be the beginning, the moment you stop managing your pain and start trusting His healing. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need an honest yes. Yes to letting Him finish what He started. Yes to no longer believing the lie that healing is for others, but not for you. Yes to the restoration that is already unfolding inside of you, because the wound wasn't the end. It was where love entered, where grace settled, where healing started. And now, by the Spirit of the living God, you are not just surviving. You are being restored. Let Him finish the work. He won't stop until the part of you that once broke becomes the very place where His glory shines the brightest.